Ready.
Let
I'm
me
ready.
know when you got
You're
it.
good. It's ready to go.
Perfect, and we're right at 3 o'clock.
Welcome, everybody.
That was a happy,
That was it.
joy to
Yeah,
begin with.
that was
There
my
you go.
big welcome.
Guys, I don't need to introduce myself. If I do, you're in the wrong place. Gentlemen, I am going to give you a little bit of perspective on the issue of population, human population, when it comes to dynamics, excuse me, hon, of our species and the incredible amounts of over-abuse that our natural tendencies to reproduce lead us towards. Perspective-wise, that whole concept of gleaning, of wholesale authorized murder as a profession out of necessity, what I'm simply asking of you, is it possible that that might become necessary? I want you to think about that. By way of perspective, take a look at what I've broadcast up on this screen, if you can see it, please. For some of you guys, I know this is not necessarily going to be an easy thing. This is a simple Word document, and I have taken the period button, and I have put a series of dots on a single piece of paper on purpose, gentlemen. I wouldn't necessarily expect you guys to sit here and count up the number of dots. Basic mathematical skills. Easiest way to do something like this? Bingo! Thank you, Mr. Bowman. A basic math skill of consolidation. Count up only the number in one row, and then count up the number of columns and do a nice little happy multiplication. I'll spare you guys the mental gymnastic effort of doing so from a distance. I want you to picture this single electronic version as if it were a piece of typing paper, easily available that you guys use, or hell, even a piece of notebook paper that many of you guys are writing on right now. If I were to take that number of dots and put it on the one side of a single piece of paper, in this screen view, I can get, there's your hints, 160 across by 25 columns. Ultimately speaking, how many dots do you get? That's 4,000 dots on a single piece of paper. Actually, let me see if I can make this a little easier for you guys. Hey, magnification, it works. You can get 4,000 dots on a piece of paper. Okay, great. So what? Big deal. Who cares? Gentlemen, the human brain has a very hard time thinking in terms of large numbers or large scale. Trying to get an idea about populations and population numbers, I am merely going to use this as an example to show you how this process would work. Guys, if you can get 4,000 dots on a single piece of paper, how many pieces of paper would it take to represent 1 million dots? This is basic math skills. Thank you, sir. Some of you guys, wow, calculator functions and or your brains work real well. That's 250 pieces of paper. All right? Each piece of paper with 4,000 dots on it, there's your million. That's a hard number to think in terms of, guys, for a human brain, but maybe a way of showing you. All right? So, geniuses that you are.
Or 40,000? No,
200,500.
That away, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Hobbick. Yeah, the math skills, Mr. Bowman. Guys, add a bunch of zeros. Instead of 250 pieces of paper, you're dealing with 250,000 pieces of paper. Now, that's a little harder thing for you guys to picture. So, let me put this into another perspective. If you were to take in a single vertical inch and take typing paper, you would literally be able to get in a vertical inch 250 pieces of paper. So, this is not meant to be a trick question. How high would the stack of paper be to represent 1 million dots? That's it. I'm not trying to throw you any major mental problems here, guys. a 1-inch high stack of paper, 250 pieces, with 4,000 dots on them, gives you literally 1,000,000 dots in an inch of height. How tall would the stack be to represent 1,000,000,000 dots, Mr. Thornton?
1,000?
Bingo! Let's go for 1,000 inches, and if you want to translate that to feet to make it make a little bit more sense, guys, that's more than 83 feet tall of a stack of typing paper. Every single piece of paper has 4,000 dots on it. Why am I doing this? I hope it'll be clear momentarily, Mr. Thornton.
Are these papers double-sided?
And if you look and paid attention to the second line that I put up there, because I'm doing this electronically, Mr. Thornton, I can get away with single-siding them. Attaboy. And I even made a note of that up there. With a smiley face even. Gentlemen, why am I asking you to do this? As of November of 2022, the world population of human beings reached 8 billion. Right now, we are at approximately 8,130,000,000 people and counting. Let's give you guys a way of thinking of what that number actually means with exactly this same analogy. If every single piece of paper that I just gave you as an example, and every dot on each piece of paper represented a single human life, how tall would that stack have to be?
Number full, you're gonna have to leave. Got too many.
And now, I hope you are seeing some perspective. Let's take 8,130 inches and convert it to feet. That is 677 feet tall, gentlemen. The Aegon building in downtown Louisville is the tallest structure in this city. That structure is literally only about 550 feet tall. I want you to picture a piece of paper stacked over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. 677 feet tall. Every single piece of paper has 4,000 people represented on it. That's what our world population is right now. Perspective time. Go ahead, Mr.
Does the
McCaffrey.
wind represent the apocalypse of humanity?
Mr. McCaffrey, what do you think I'm doing right now? Representing the apocalypse of humanity. Guys, take a look here, please, with the hope that this is going to work correctly. If it doesn't, I'm going to defecate. All right, then. It's working. There you go. Gentlemen, all of this is a summary. That literally, you have got a way of representing the population of humanity. Let's put that into some sense of comparison. One of the largest land animals in existence today is the African elephant. Because of human influences, primarily hunting, so we can kill them and cut off their tusks and cut off their feet and make Viagra out of it, that population of one of the largest land animals on the planet is numbering, according to the World Wildlife Fund, from 2024, at a population of about 415,000 elephants. Guys, that's a huge number. What are we worried about? What's the big deal? Why don't you take that same analogy of the dots on a piece of paper? 4,000 dots on a piece of paper now represents a single African elephant. 415,000? How tall is the stack? How about less than half an inch? Think about it. Our stack is 677 feet tall. The largest land animal on the planet, half an inch in comparison. How many people are we, gentlemen? And we keep making more every single minute, as you guys will see. Gentlemen, it is estimated that if the population growth continues before the end of this century, in less than 75 years, the world population will have hit 14 billion people. I'm going to introduce you to a conservation term that some of you may be familiar with. I could get Mr. Hannigan to explain in detail. He got beaten over the head with this in advanced environmental science last year. Gentlemen, a carrying capacity is the amount of resources that are available that can allow an entire group of living things to survive. The amount of fresh water, the amount of food, the amount of available space, the ability to gain the things that are needed for survival. Our best estimates right now say that from the standpoint of the global planetary basis, the number of human beings that this planet can effectively sustain is about 10.6 billion people. If current trends continue, within your lifetime, we will hit that number. What happens when we hit the maximum carrying capacity?
We die.
And so does everybody else, except those that have more resources than others, like those in the United States of America. Gentlemen, there is an economist by the name of Thomas Malthus back in the late 1700s that came up with an idea of looking at human population growth. He said there's only three things that can ever limit our dominant species and the numbers that we're reproducing: war, famine, disease. That's it. Whether he's right or not, you guys are going to find out. Look at what's happening in other parts of the world right now. Look at the warfare over the scarcity of resources. Look at the famine that is happening in parts of the world of people starving to death. Look at the possibilities for brand new deadly diseases that we can't do a stinking thing about except allow evolution in action to take care of for us. Is Malthus right? I don't know. You guys are going to be the ones to find this out. 1969, the first time in the history of the world that we had the ability to do a global census and have it come out anything close to accurately. The number of people in the world was approximately 3.5 billion on the surface of this planet. And we were growing at a rate that was a little over 2% at that point in the year. Gentlemen, that 2.02% growth rate was the greatest amount of new people on the planet that has ever been seen in the history of humankind. By the year, and again, this was about 70 million people added to the surface of this planet. I want you guys to think about the entire populations of New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Denver, Colorado, and St. Louis, Missouri. That many people added to the planet every single year at that potential growth rate. By the year 2000, the turn of the millennium, our growth rate was down to about 1.6% from over 2%. Hey, we're doing better. But here's the difficulty. Also in the year 2000, we hit 6 billion people on this planet. Now you take 6 billion people growing at a rate of 1.6%, and you're still adding 84 million people to the planet every year. What the frack? Gentlemen, I pulled this information yesterday afternoon from the World Health Organization and confirmed it with the United Nations. our current rate of population increase is now down by almost half again. But we have more than 8 billion people on this planet. And even at a 0.087% growth rate, we're still over 70 million people adding to the planet every year. I am going to introduce you to a concept called zero population growth. How do we maintain a balanced population when the only thing that controls how many people we produce is ourselves? What would happen right now if in that world that Scythe presented, you don't die? Nobody dies. Ever. Ever. What does that do to the population of this planet? And how fast do we reach that critical mass of resource depletion? The book introduces the Thunderhead, an artificial intelligence global computer program that's basically solved all those problems. We've got unlimited resources, unlimited places to live, unlimited food, unlimited ways of keeping us alive, healthy, and happy as a global population. I hope you're not holding your breath for that happening anytime soon. Gentlemen, this is, again, about as scary monsters as it gets. And I want you to also get just a little perspective, because this world population clock, come on, seriously, fracking technology, that I'm going to show you, if the bloody thing will work. Come on. Come on. Somebody throw this thing out the flaming airlock. There we go. I want you to look at those numbers, guys, right now. Those calculations are coming from a computer algorithm program that takes in information from hospitals, doctors, average estimates of population centers across the globe. That's what's going on right now. I want you to look very carefully at the number of people that are being born versus the number that are dying, and look at those numbers climb. This is what's happening right now as you are sitting here. Where does it end, guys? How does it end? I can't answer that question. Hang on just a second, Mr. Bowman. But what I will tell you is this. From a standpoint of perspective that I once again hope to leave you with again, hope that this is going to work. Yep. I want you to understand that from a global standpoint, in literally the time of Christ, the estimated total population of this planet was about 150 million people across the globe, guys. That is less than half of what the population of the United States is right now. We didn't reach our first billion people until around about the time of what is called the Industrial Revolution. It took over 18 centuries to get to 1 billion people. In less than 100 years, we hit the 2 billion mark. In 30 years, we got to the 3 billion mark. In 14 years, we got to the 4 billion mark. In 12 years, we hit 5 billion. Another 12 gave us 6 billion. 7 billion people when you guys were in grade school. We hit the 8 billion mark in November of 2022. And if those estimates continue, by the time some of you guys graduate, we'll have hit 9 billion people on this planet. By the time you guys are out in this community, working, living, earning your own keep, potentially with marriage and or a family of your own, that 10.6 billion within your lifetime. And unless something major changes by the way of technological developments, the thunderhead, vast degrees of differences in how we can process and manufacture and distribute food and clean water and available living space to give every single person on this planet the opportunity to live, not even in luxury like you guys do, but live at all, this becomes an issue that you guys are all going to be dealing with. Is it possible that sites and gleaning are going to become necessary mechanisms of controlling our own population if we're not going to do it ourselves? I call this book a cautionary tale on purpose. For some of you guys, great adventure story. For some of you guys, another crappy teen dystopian novel, and you've read far too many of them, with things like The Hunger Games and Insurgent and Divergent and all of those other nice happy words that you may be familiar with. In this case, this to me is probably the scariest of all when it comes to dystopian futures, because it deals with something underlying that is actually real and will have direct influences on your own lives. Because the more people there are on this planet, the more the competition for a limited amount of resources is going to be. And even though you guys live in the most luxurious nation on the planet with a repulsive amount of luxury, and I will continue to beat you guys over the head with that I've got in class, the United States has about 5% of the world's population. We use more than 30% of the world's resources because we can. Don't think that's going to be able to continue as population numbers increase either. Gentlemen, some things to chew on for the day. Welcome to my immediate take on sight, 10 pages in, as I was trying to gain some ideas about what this book was all about and why it was potentially important. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You may be living it within the scope of your lifetimes before you get to my age. Got it? Questions? Speak your piece. Mr. Bowman, you had something I paused you on.
Yeah, but I can't remember what I was going to say now.
A brain transplant necessary. Full frontal lobotomy?
I think I'm good.
Attaboy.
Pass.
Go ahead, Mr. McCaffrey.
Are we just taking a pause for questions, and we're gonna continue on?
I'm done. Are you kidding me? Look at what I did. An entire 2 days lesson in 25 minutes.
How do you propose we solve it? Any ideas you have other than just anything complex you can think of?
Stop producing more people.
Stay a virgin.
Mr. McCaffrey, hey, why don't we take care of the ones out there first before we make a bunch of new ones?
Other than that, any ideas on mass genocide and mass?
Nope.
That's it.
Basically, either commit murder or be a virgin. Those are our options.
I'm gonna have a virgin.
And now
That's not how that works.
I leave you with joy and happiness for the long weekend. Vaya con Dios. Thank you, Mr. Zoller.
Hey, are we doing?
Attaboy.
Are we doing kickball, sir?
Yes, we've got a big meeting. Can you not hear me now?
I have no idea.